Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one. I'm Nick, and today I'm continuing my Shark Sundays with 47 meters down Uncaged. I did part one a week or two ago. You can go check out that one. And yeah, this is an odd sequel for me. I or when I first watched it, when it first came out, I did not enjoy it at all, and I was highly disappointed. So it was interesting to go back and rewatch it for this review. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into this one. 47 Meters Down Uncaged was released in 2019. It stars Sophie Nélisse, Corinne Fox, which is Jamie Foxx's daughter, Brian Chu, John Corbett, and Kristen Stallone, which is her acting debut, and she is Sylvester Stallone's daughter. So we get Jamie Lee Foxx's daughter and Sylvester Stallone's daughter in this one, which is kind of interesting. And it was directed by Johannes Roberts. Again, he returned for the sequel. He also directed the first film. So this sequel takes place in Mexico again, and we follow these stepsisters who just recently moved to Mexico with their family. And their dad, or one of their real dads, is mapping out these caves that are underwater. And they were pretty much these ruined cities built by the Mayans back in the day, and they all got flooded or whatever, and they're mapping them out. And guys, this is basically a sequel only by name, like has nothing. There's no connection to the first film aside from there being sharks and two sisters go in the water near sharks. That's pretty much it. The line's drawn there. And the two stepsisters are not like the two sisters in the first film. They were very much close and felt kind of connected. Where this film, they don't really like each other. Like when they're in school, one gets bullied, another one doesn't even bother to help her or anything. One's named Sasha, and the other one Mia. And Mia's the one that's getting bullied a lot in school and that, and it's her real dad that's the mapping out the caves. So the two sisters actually get a chance to bond when they ditch the tourist boat that they were supposed to be on, that their dad set them up to go on, to hang out with their friends, and they actually end up going to wherever their dad is mapping out the caves. They go in a different part of the caves, like a different location, a different entrance, if you will. So the dad's not around, and there's already gear and all that there. So the kids decide, hey, let's steal the gear and go in the caves for ourselves, and we won't get caught. We can make it back, and no one will ever know. They'll think we were on the tourist boat. And Mia is reluctant to go. She doesn't feel right doing this. She knows it's unsafe. But the other girls kind of convince her, and she wants to be friends with her sister. So she says, "Okay, I'll go. We'll all go in, but we have to be quick, and we can't go far." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, we'll just be safe." Obviously, this is a horror film, so once they get in there, shit happens, and it does. They get sealed off, and they're pretty much trapped in these caves with these weird fish, and you guessed it, sharks. And all of the creatures and fish in the water in the caves, it's so dark down there that they have adapted to the darkness, and they're all pretty much blind. They go by sound and by like feel and stuff like that. And this is going to be a spoiler free review, guys, so I'm not going to go any further than that, but I have to mention one part that they run into a fish which causes a jump scare, and but I have to talk about because it's so ridiculous. It's this weird looking fish, and it literally turns at them, and the jump scare is it screaming at them, and you actually hear it scream. You're like, since when do fish scream at people? Like, it's so weird. And I'm like, who thought of putting this in this film? It's so dumb. And this is not like a like, it is a cheesy movie, but it's not like played that way. It's played very serious. So it just came off as really weird having that fish do that, and it makes for a really silly jump scare as well. Then the rest of the film is just them trapped down there trying to find a way out, with these sharks picking them off one by one. Now the sharks are great white sharks, but they've been trapped in these caves for God knows how many years. And they've also adapted. They're blind and they're big, and they feel like they're all like gray, and they're almost like zombified a little bit, and it seems. But this is where they fail. Like, the sharks are not scary at all in this film, in my opinion. They're way too CGI heavy. The first film had it, but they did a really good job at not showing too much of the sharks. And when they did, the CGI was cleaned up enough that it didn't look cartoonish. But in this film, it takes me out of it. I see the CGI and it bothers me. It makes it not scary to me. The lighting in this film isn't too bad though for being underwater in the caves and shit. Just like the first film, it did a really good job with the lighting. This film is, I'd say, not as good, but still very good for what they had. While they did a pretty good job with the lighting, the tension and atmosphere is completely dissolved in this film. It's nowhere to be found. In the first film, I found myself full of tension and it was claustrophobic and all that, and you just felt like you're ready to jump out of your seat at any moment. When this film, I don't feel that at all. It feels so dull to me. It just didn't do it. I mean, there's a few okay little jump scares in that, but overall they feel pretty cheap. One thing I will give it credit for though is the use of music underwater. I thought that was pretty clever. How they had the speakers down there when they were working, and it made for some pretty cool scenes when you hear the music going around the corner and that, and the shark does different things with it, and yeah, it just, that was one thing I thought it did well with the atmosphere, is adding the music in there, and it really was a nice touch on a pretty, everything else was pretty dull in this film, so that was pretty cool. So I found the story interesting enough going through it, up to a certain point, and I was around the 1 hour mark. Then I found myself not as engaged, just not caring anymore, and the movie just feels, the pacing just comes to a complete stop in my opinion. That's where I'm starting to look at my watch, checking out, just getting bored. Like, I wasn't even interested in finishing this film, even on this rewatch. I noticed that while I don't find it's as bad as my initial first watch, because I think I know what to expect this time, it still wasn't one of my favorite shark films, that's for sure. And without any spoilers, again, I'm gonna try to talk about the ending really quick, just get my thoughts. It was pretty crazy and kind of fun. I think if that wasn't there, this would be a real stinker. It was the only thing that kind of brought the movie back for me a little bit. I feel like the end, it just kept the movie from being underwhelming, and it was kind of fun in that. And I wish the rest of the movie would have had that momentum that final act had, but it was fairly dull throughout the most of the runtime, in my opinion. And if I'm gonna have to put a rating on this movie, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. It's a average at best. It's a mixed bag really for me. I have just as many negatives as positives, maybe even a little more negatives, but I can still get through this movie. It's just not one of my favorites and doesn't hold a candle to the first film in my opinion. And I'm honestly surprised I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. The first time I watched it, I gave it like a 3. But this time, like I said, you kind of know what to expect going in after rewatching something. And my standards were set a little lower than before. And yeah, I'm comfortable giving this a 5 out of 10 now. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So there you have it, guys. There's another fairly spoiler free, aside from one little thing I gave away, which you guys, it's nothing crazy. That fish scream, you guys are able to get away with that one, but fairly spoiler free review here, guys, because this just came out a few years ago. The newer movies I don't like to give away too much unless I have way more to say. Also, make sure to follow me on Letterboxd if you want to keep up with all my ratings and scores on the films that I reviewed. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.